Hi everyone, and welcome to a special show today. We have a joint venture between Allsopp and Dubizzle. My name is Lewis Allsopp.
My name is Samir Abdin.
So Samir is the general manager, I believe, for Dubizzle, and makes you the main man.
Indeed, for all things property.
Everything property, so it all goes through you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your role then in Dubizzle. For anyone that's watching, obviously we're going to have lots of Dubizzle watchers and Allsopp and the other agents out there watching us. Tell us about what you do at Dubizzle.
So, general manager of property. So basically, everything property goes through me. What that means is that Dubizzle, as you know, has been a core part of the growth story of Dubai.
Definitely,
because it serves so many aspects of life, right?
Yeah.
You do everything from buying a house, selling your car, getting the pram for your baby, moving in, moving out.
Yeah.
All of these things are served by Dubizzle. But now it's become so big that property in itself, autos in itself, goods in itself, they need a certain amount of focus and a little bit of organisation. So that's how we're organised now.
It's a big old website, isn't it, really? If you think about it. I mean, your website for me is the first place I go to for a car, and it's probably the joint first place going through for a property. It's, for anyone that's, like you said, if they move to Dubai, you can literally buy a pram, a house, a car, and you're ready to set up in Dubai, aren't you?
Absolutely. And this is the unique thing about Dubizzle, which is that it follows you in your life in Dubai.
It's like a journey, isn't it, I
Right,
suppose?
absolutely.
You're selling your house at the end when you move in, we'll take it on as well. You're selling your car, do you know who you go to? You go, I forgot one thing, by the way, if you don't mind. If you can see that.
There you go.
There you go. And you got my brand.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'll actually have a bit of this right there. I'll actually drink from this. It's not a very good drink to drink on a podcast, but branding is there. I'm getting paid for this, believe it or not. And you're getting paid for that. Okay, so Dubizzle, as I said, they've had an amazing journey over the last, how long? 10 years?
It's
Must be.
Yeah, over 10 years actually.
Yeah.
We launched in end of 06, I believe.
Yeah, because we launched in 08, and when we launched, we weren't using Dubizzle at the start. So this shows a massive change in the market. We used to pump all of our money into paper print, and we were spending 6 digits dirhams as a new startup company just to get to the front. And the way the world's transitioned now, we don't even do any print. I mean, nothing. I don't think anyone does anymore, really. And if you do, you might as well go to Blockbusters and get yourself a nice DVD or whatever they do in the days, and go and do the nostalgia as well. So yeah, Dubizzle's come a long way for me. And what's been the biggest challenge you think Dubizzle's faced over the last 5 or 6 years?
So it's a tricky one. I think there have been some structural changes in the market.
Yeah.
Right. Really, really big ones. So the first one, obviously, we had the crisis in 2008, and I think that sort of was an end of a certain era and the beginning of a new one.
Did that affect? This is interesting for me to know. Did that affect Dubizzle? Because obviously, as a broker, we asked, of course, it affects when the crash happened and everything else. How did it affect you guys?
So we actually grew in that period.
Okay.
Interestingly, I think what happened was that as business got really tight, businesses like yourself saw that print wasn't working. They needed new channels, and there's nothing like desperation to get the mind going, right?
Definitely.
So people started looking for new channels. Online was the thing.
Yeah.
And we benefited from that and took advantage of it. And so that was actually a period of really good growth for us.
So that wasn't a challenge for you then, really, was it? There was a opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, working with brokers to try and find ways to get them the leads they needed, right? Because what happened was that people were online before brokers realized,
of course,
and they were still spending on things like print and other channels.
Yeah.
And so we'd show them the numbers, we'd show them what areas are good, just like we do these days.
Yeah.
And try and get you the deal.
Well, it works. I think you're one of our, if not top 3 most profitable revenue streams for cost versus income. Okay, so what's going back to the challenges that you faced over the last 5 or 6 years? What's been the biggest one that Dubizzle has faced coming into I suppose because the market's evolving so much, and I've seen your competitors change the way they work, and how they try and give more experience to the real estate customer, because obviously spend is a massive part of it, but also quality of listings as a broker and for your website.
Yeah.
What's been a big factor what you're seeing at the moment, trying to adjust to over the last 5 or 6 years?
So I think the biggest structural change, I think on the buyer side, I think there's been that swap from investor to end user.
Yes, I agree.
Right, and we serve. We're a slave of two masters, right?
Yeah.
you're one as a broker, right? And
we're your slave.
One of the leading brokers, and also the buyer, the renter,
of course,
right? And so if that character changes, then we have to change with it. So that's one, and I'll come to that in a second, but that was one big structural change. The other one is just the evolution of people like yourselves, right? In terms of the maturity. I mean, seeing, companies like you grow from very humble beginnings into what you are today, obviously sophistication is going to be a thing. Obviously what worked 5 years ago is not going to work now. And there's also a sophistication of the buyer too. Right. So you put all those things together, and quality is a huge issue now. And in a broader sense, also information is another one, right? So whether it's a buyer or yourself, your access now to information is just massive, right? So we need to in a sense find a way to curate that information, both for you from a business point of view, but also to the user.
Definitely.
And these are things that we're now, this is now sort of up front and center in our plans for the next period.
If you go to like Zoopla or Rightmove in the UK, one of the biggest things that you can see that brokers use is they use market tools from Rightmove and Zoopla. So what they'll do is they'll go to the market and say, hey, how you doing? Just to let you know, we're number one in this area. We're the number one lead generator. We've sold the most properties, whatever it may be. And what we do is we promote Rightmove effectively by saying Rightmove have branded us as the number one agent. Is this what Dubizzle is trying to get into at the moment?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So the whole field of data transparency, both to you, like I said, both to you as a business. So what's important to you, Lewis? What do you want to know?
Leads, please.
There's leads. There's also, how you compare. There's also data on agents. There's also, how are they picking up the calls? How are they following up? All of these things.
I agree.
From a buyer or a renter side, they want to know trends. They want to know, am I getting a good deal when I talk to an agent and they give me feedback? Is there a way to corroborate this? Is there a way to get smarter on the area? I've got 2 kids. What are the schools around me? All of these topics, and there are plenty of international examples of them, doing this well. And we're learning from that and applying it to the Dubai market. So over the next sort of 6 months to a year, do expect some
big things,
some pretty cool stuff. Yeah,
very good. I'm excited, man. It's going to cost me more money, I'm sure, though. I'm not cheersing. You say it costs me more money. Okay, so next question I've got is something that we're heavily involved in at the moment. I've discussed it off camera with you before. I'm not going to go into too much detail before we go to launch it, but we're heavily involved in disruption or innovation. That's our next big step, and it's the next thing that people can expect from Allsopp. And Allsopp is to really turn the tables on the whole property market. With Dubizzle, are you guys doing anything to innovate? Do you have meetings to discuss what you can do? If there's anything you can share with anyone that's watching, because it's obviously going to be your audience as well as ours. Be interesting to know.
So look, the themes of the future are, increasingly towards mobile. Right? Mobile is a huge thing. That's already happened. It's a matter of how to actually capitalize on it. Next wave are, blockchain, artificial intelligence, big data. All of these things are topics which, on the property front, it's unclear exactly how they'll be relevant, but everyone firmly believes they will be.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? So we're having lots of, Dubizzle, by the way, is part of a global company called OLX, and OLX has a very heavy sort of business intelligence and big data arm now.
Wow.
We're investing quite heavily in it. So
can I ask you a question? It's a dumb question I'm going to ask, but I'm an estate agent over there. What's big data for anyone that's watching?
So it's actually a lot simpler than it sounds. It's literally big data. So you have a spreadsheet, right? It's got, 100 lines and maybe 20 columns. Right? Big data is a million lines by
so it literally collates all that information,
huge,
and then picks user trends. Is that what you're doing with it?
Exactly. And then you start to find patterns, and that's where the artificial intelligence and machine learning, what's called machine learning, comes in, which is basically you write a bit of code and it just goes in and tries to find trends, patterns, correlations,
and then you use that, I suppose, to build your business off the back of it.
Exactly. So so there's lots of talk about how do we get you a better lead. So so for instance, how do we get better leads?
Yes.
Right. We've got a ton of users on our site. They behave in a certain way. Right. Tracking that behavior and going from tracking to saying, I think this user is going to do 1, 2, 3.
That
leap is big data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. And if we get that right, and that's, one of the things that we're looking into, that's where someone like you benefits and the buyer benefits, because then we show them things that we know that they're interested in. Perhaps they don't know.
It's really interesting. Obviously, I don't see this end of it. This is really a tech aspect that you guys are involved in. So let's say, for instance, you know that people are looking at Ferraris as an example, and you know the Ferrari user ends up looking at a Palm Jumeirah villa. And we know there's a correlation there between that. My question I've got is what will you put something on your website to say, hey, we understand that maybe you'd be interested in high-end houses, and you use that big data to do that?
So in a sense that we already do, right? You'll probably get an email as opposed to as a buyer. Say, hey, we saw that you looked at this. Maybe you'd be interested in ABC. The smarter version is going in and saying, you know what, this is the system talking now. I remember you from last year. You were looking for rentals at 2 bedrooms and blah, blah, blah. Now you seem to be selling your car. Chances are you're looking for a new car, because selling and buying often happens concurrently, right? You're normally swapping out a car. Interesting. You're looking at a higher grade car than you were before. Oh, and by the way,
you've not been sacked, so you.
Exactly. So maybe this guy's on the up, right?
Yeah.
And we know that last year you were looking for rentals. Hey, by the way, is your contract up now?
Wow.
Here, these are the kinds of future looking things that we're looking into. It's.
Do you have to be logged in though, I guess, to get that type of experience?
That's the thing. We need to find ways, and especially these days with the recent scandals, we need to find ways to prove to a user that these things are valuable to them, and so to bring them on board so that we can do these things.
Okay. So last question before we round up. We're going to talk a little bit about mobile interaction. So my life at the moment, I literally laugh at my brother sometimes because he's like, Lewis, you've not opened your laptop all day, and I'm around all day, but I've got my phone constantly. There's a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk who's a very famous public speaker, and he's involved in, he's not on a laptop in 4 years. Now, I've actually taken, I suppose, a little bit of interest in it myself and trying to operate without my laptop as much as I can. Now, I order my lunch without doing anything. You can order a taxi. I can read my emails. I can call WhatsApp. How important to Dubizzle is the mobile interaction? Is that a big aspect that you're going down?
It's from a user perspective.
Yes.
We inflected into a mobile-first company probably a couple of years ago. In terms of the actual users, so 70% of our users use mobile. Right, use us on mobile.
Really?
Right. Come to us through mobile, all the rest of it. Now, from a lead and this is where property is interesting. In other areas of the business, they generate leads on mobile in the same proportion, right? Or similar proportions. For property, it's slightly different. What you'll see is that someone will browse about on mobile, will go on their desktop, probably share it with a partner or have a broader discussion, because property is typically a big deal, especially if you're buying, and so it's a longer process, and we see this sort of bouncing in and out of the mobile. But the mobile's typically the first place where they start to shortlist. Right, and this is and especially as millennials are now becoming of buying age. Right, they're at a stage now where they can start to buy houses, perhaps even beginning to get married, have kids. Think about these things. They have grown up in mobile.
I agree.
Right? They came of age in mobile. There was a great discussion the other day about it's very geeky, but it's interesting. The phone icon. There's a big discussion on the blog the other day about the people who are now growing up in mobile don't know what that icon is.
They don't know the Apple
shape of the phone.
Because they go, what's that? Is there a banana?
Because the phone is square shaped now. Right? Exactly. So mobile is absolutely crucial in that first step. Right, of browsing and figuring out, and also sharing.
Definitely.
Right? I mean,
you can just click WhatsApp, can't you?
There you go.
Even like WhatsApp, I know there's a desktop version for it, but it doesn't quite work the way they're mobile.
Paste, open up a new thing.
So we expect some innovations from you guys over the next few years on mobile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, that's enough for us today. There'll be more shows from myself and Dubizzle with Samir. We'll be talking about anything technology, anything to do with property portals, anything real estate related. We have an estate agent here, and we have a technology expert in Samir. We'll make sure we get some more content over the next few weeks across here. That's enough from us. Bye.